All right, so now I want to look at identifying profitable trends, but before we get into it, I want to talk about why trends actually matter. And this is because when you are going commercial, what this means is you are targeting a large audience, a mass majority, if you will. So think about how long, and probably still, but think about how long Monstera plants were the hot, like you saw a Monstera plant leaf on anything and you're like, oh, I gotta have that, right? Maybe not you, but people, right? For a long time, one of the trends was unnecessary foul language, right? I think that's trying to stick around a lot longer than it needs to. It's not shocking anymore, but it's still around. But that's a trend, okay? So if that's your thing. Sorry to bring that into the equation, but it's just a great example. Another one, llamas, okay? Llamas, so many llamas. Sloths, I know these are getting animal focused, but I just want to share, like, those are some great examples of trends that really reach the mass audience, consumer. Now, if you don't feel drawn to those things, you do not have to make those things. But it is good to just look and be aware of what is up and coming, what is fresh and new, so that you can meet somewhere in the middle with what you want to offer. You want to meet the demands of the future and not just the demands of what you've known to exist for so long. So as we're learning to do art, we have a lot of practice. So let's say we are doing modern calligraphy and we see all these inspirational quotes everywhere. So we think that we should do an inspirational quote, but something that Tom Ross, founder of Design Cuts, shared in one of my community for creative entrepreneurs, The Flock. If you remember that, then you know. But one of the things he shared in there that I loved was like, well, how can you actually set yourself apart while doing that same thing? And it's like, okay, if you are really, really into this thing, why not bring part of those aspects into your lettering and make that your niche? So you're still lettering, you're still doing these designs that like you love doing, even though they would otherwise get lost in the sea of all the similar things, but they don't, because they're specific to something that you brought to it. I mean, what's a good example? Maybe it's like you're super, super into nature. And so everything is really correlated around being outdoors, these types of things. And then your designs will organically start to really reflect that more and more. And then you have a niche within, without being too niche-y in your actual design process. On the flip side, let's say you love doing inspirational quotes as a calligrapher or a hand letterer rather, or both, and you want to do that. That's what you want to do. And maybe your designs are unique enough, but in order to stand out, you work on a very particular color palette. And maybe that color palette will be according to the up and coming trend. So maybe that looks like, think about millennial pink and how big that got. Everyone wanted anything millennial pink. So if I, do a monochromatic scheme featuring this hue of pink, like it's going to be something that is attractive. But if everybody's doing that, then let's look at the trends and see what complements it. Let's look at complementary colors. Maybe there's a lot of seafoam in there, seafoam green, and we play to that a little bit more. So you're still standing out, but you are able to make it your own, basically. These are just little examples of, what would be a much bigger picture. But I just want to start kind of triggering your brain to start thinking about opportunities. And this is exactly how it happens. There's a lot of brainstorming involved. So let's look at where to identify things like this. I love looking at color. In this example, we're looking at neutrals, going more to like a natural space, even more neutral than this. But the reason I went with this is because I'm particularly super fond of green. And so this is a selfish slide deck, but I am excited to share it because it makes me happy. But see how I made that my own, okay? So you'll see it in color. You'll see it in motifs, design elements, any ornamental types of things like that. Cacti were really popular and along with succulents a few years ago. Right now we're seeing a lot of geometric arcs. Is it arcs or arches? Arcs? Arches. We're going to go with arcs. Rainbows that are more stretched and natural colors, whether they be rainbow designs or not. And then we can look for patterns. And this particular one is not necessarily like a surface design pattern, but it is a pattern in the sense that we are looking at tile. And in this case, this would be more of like a bohemian jungle style. It's not the only trend, right? So there's so many different ones. Like subway tile was really popular for a while and it's kind of on its way out, but you're going to see things like that pop up. And you don't necessarily have to use these items in designs either. You can use them in your display of your artwork. So maybe it's a background, maybe it's something that fits into what's going to capture somebody's attention in those instant moments that will draw their eye into what you actually are presenting, if that makes sense. So I want to encourage you to stay really observant and recognize recurring details that you see everywhere in the commercial market. And with that type of detail, it might not be the most obvious right up front. So that's where you just pay attention to what keeps coming up. It doesn't mean that just because it's not obvious that it won't be soon. And a lot of this inspiration is actually sourced from people now. So we have social media as our driving force. So a lot of these brands, I mean, you look at hashtag Target style and it's a thing. Like they host it on their actual website showing how people use their products. But then what they do, which is really smart, is borrow staging and things that are getting a lot of attention from social media, from these like influencers, for lack of better words, and they're taking those and creating, like, it's basically a give and take.